Hey everyone, Ragnamune here, coming at you from my new place. And if you hear like some sort of like audio echo thing of some sort, I don't have anything to deafen sound in here, so gonna have to bear with that. Apologies, but at the very least, I have my own big old desk thing. I'm no longer laying on a bed doing this stuff. But let's get right to it. This is gonna be a bit of an experiment. I always wanted to talk about some stuff, and don't worry, it's not anything life-ending. It's basically just a chat about video games. Because when it comes to video games and my love for them, when I talk to some people about them, they always tell me that that they wish I would just shut the fuck up. So, what you guys are gonna get is essentially me talking for however long I feel like I need to talk about just some certain experiences with video games and kind of giving my general consensus and thoughts on those games. So the first series that I want to give my thoughts and whatnot on is a series that I started Let's Playing, because I Let's Played the first game of it a long time ago, and I never got around to the other games as of yet, which I can get to because now I have, on my other laptop, I have the files for that game. And I actually did start recording a few episodes of the second one of the series, but I could never get them to come out the way I wanted them to, so I've had that project on hold for a while. But the game series in general we're going to be talking about today is the Spyro the Dragon series. And that is because, quite frankly, I grew up with the Spyro series. I haven't played every single game in the series. Not a chance in hell that I've played every single game in the series, but I've played enough, damn well enough, I've played a vast majority of them, to pretty much have enough to talk about and give 2 cents. So I might as well start with the very beginning. What was my first taste of Spyro the Dragon? My first taste of Spyro the Dragon was when I got my very first taste of the PlayStation back in, I want to say 1998? Yeah, around 98 or so. When I was in the second grade, I got a PlayStation for Christmas, and the disc that came with it was a blue PlayStation Underground Jam Pack disc, and it had all sorts of demos on it. It had Toy Story 2, Sled Storm, Thrasher Skate and Destroy, a freaking legendary game, let me tell you, a legendary game. It also had, I already said Gran Turismo 2. It had Jammer Lammy. It had a couple of sports titles that I didn't give a damn about. It had Tomba 2, The Evil Swan Return, and it had a demo of Spyro 2, Ripto's Rage. So, I played the 2 levels that were on there, which was Aquaria Towers. Nowadays we know it as Sunny. Not Aquaria Towers, Aquaria Beach. That's what it was called in the demo. But we know it today as Sunny Beach. And Skelos Badlands. And they were literally the tried and true complete levels. The only difference was there was no background music. There'd be another demo in Crash Team Racing, which, thanks to the game manual, I got to play that as well. And I got to explore around the 2 levels of Colossus and Magma Cone, I believe the name of that level, the lava level was. So I got to play 4 levels of Spyro. And I rented CTR. Just to keep that there. Anyways, that was my first look into Spyro, but I wouldn't be able to play a full Spyro game until my good old friend Brandon Patricelli, and if you're listening into this, Brandon, I hope you're doing alright, brother. He lent me a Spyro the Dragon disc, lent it to me, I borrowed it from him, but eventually it just came around to me keeping it. And I loved that Spyro game so much, it was really good. Spyro 1, you've seen me Let's Play it in 10 frames a second, and oh my god, sometimes I wish I could just go back and redo it, just because I now have the ability to make it better. Because I have the ability to make it better. Oh boy. So my first thoughts of Spyro the Dragon, when I played it, for the first time, was, holy shit, this game is hard! I didn't know where to go, what to do. I was a kid back then. I was running around I was a chicken with a head cut off. And I logged so many hours in that game trying to figure out where things were, because I'm not gonna beat around the bush. Of the original 3 Spyro games on the PS1, Spyro the Dragon 1 is easily the hardest, and it's not because of, like, broken controls or anything like that, or because it was the first game in the series. No, I think it's the hardest just because of some of the stuff that you have to do in order to reach certain locations in certain levels. And I'll go over the three that gave me the most trouble. First and foremost was a dragon in Dry Canyon, which also led to a key. I had no idea that I had to go through and follow that little red gem path, or that little line of red gems. I had no idea that those 3 red gems were signaling me to glide all the way around in a spiral pattern to reach that ledge that was near the exit. I had no idea I was supposed to do that. It baffled my mind, and it felt like when I got that dragon and that key and all the gems that were up there, I felt like I accomplished something there. I felt like I just discovered something really cool. Let's see, other levels that gave me trouble. Wizard's Peak was the last trial that I had to endure because I was missing just a few paltry gems in a high up location that I had no idea how to reach. Eventually, I did discover that you had to walk around like the back of like I had to start at the level, and I had to turn around and look to the left, and there was a huge ledge that I had to roam around there for a while until I finally figured out that is the path that led me to where I needed to find those gems. And again, it felt like such an accomplishment when I finally figured it out, and that's what got me my 100% completion. Let's see, what else? There was obviously the infamous Treetops Dragon, the one where you have to supercharge in a very precise manner. That one was really difficult. Not so much anymore, but as a kid, that was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. I hated it so much. So much. And lastly, I want to say the last big obstacle in my way was Haunted Towers. And this one was the one where you have to take the go down the supercharge path. You have to go down the supercharge path. You got to go out the door that leads into where you would find like a little bit of a pond of some sort, and you have to go a hard left from there and use the little walkway that would have led up and let you platform to get to the supercharge path. Use that as a ramp and glide all the way around. As a kid, how in the holy hell were we supposed to figure that out? That is just... That was a huge-ass puzzle. But even better was when I did that and I found the dragon, I kept exploring because I needed to get gems and stuff. I came across that legendary fairy that gave you infinite super flame power-up for the rest of the time you were in that level, and that was a sweet reward. That was a way to say, hey, screw you for all the torture you put me through. But it was good, it was good. And then I finally 100% of the game, got to come back here when you reach 100%, as Magnus said, and I finally got to see inside that dragon mouth, and I was like, oh my god, this is beautiful. I felt so accomplished that day in life. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. This one I didn't get to play all of until I had beaten Year of the Dragon, but I still did love Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. And this is where everyone should know by now that I have a fear of bees in real life. I don't have a fear of video game bees anymore, but back then, as a kid, I was deathly afraid of bees in almost all media. Darkstone sort of helped me curb that a bit, if only a little. And then I eventually figured out how to beat in Fractured Hills those trees with the beehives on that I was so scared of approaching those that I was trying to find all sorts of ways to glide around the level and avoid them at all costs. And I feel like I almost did just that, because I was able to rescue 1, 2, 3, I want to say I managed to rescue 4 of them before there was a couple that I just could not figure out a way to get to. As for puzzles of Spyro the Dragon, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage that gave me a hard time, none of the gems gave me a hard time because we obviously had the gem radar that was thankfully given to us by pressing and holding down L1, L2, R1, and R2. Thank you. I want to say the hardest thing about Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage was the goddamn orb challenges. Some of those were pretty much gimmies. They were very easy. Other times, though, they could just fuck right off. To quote some Call Me Johnny, they could just fuck right off. Oh, I hated that so much. One in particular was the challenge in Scorch, where you had to go and super flame 3 flags. After every flag that you successfully super flamed, you had to chase a genie from a point in the level and keep up with him to where you would get back to Handle, and the flag would be considered collected. Getting that last one was near freaking suicide. Because what you had to do to get to that point was you had to take the supercharge power, you had to take the super flame power up, you had to haul ass all the way back to the beginning where Greta was, get onto that little platform there where she was standing, and then somehow aim and fire a couple of super flames to knock the guy off of the pole. And then you had to run all the way back avoiding the flag keeper's bombs, and only then were you given a level complete. Or rather, a challenge complete for the orb. It was the last orb that I collected, and it was painful to beat that one. Another one that was painful was, believe it or not, was the Skelos Badland Dinosaurs. The one where you have to rescue the 8 villagers. The first time doing that, no problem. The second time, oh god, you need memorization skills. You need reflexes and memorization skills. Thankfully, I didn't suffer this too badly, because I had the demo of Spyro 2, as I previously mentioned, that had Skelos Badlands in it, which means I could practice that over and over again to my heart's content until I got it perfect. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. Then there was some where you had to literally, in the hub worlds, you had to spread out and find some of the orbs that were hidden in some really precarious locations. I hope I'm using that word right. But I had to literally, in Autumn Plants in particular, I had no idea that you could charge into the wall at the end of the, kind of like the Great Wall of China-esque, border. You know the one I believe you know what I'm talking about. I'm guessing you are. But I had no idea that wall was breakable, that housed 20 gems and that orb. I was wondering where that orb was, because I could hear it beep, beep. I was like, where are you? And then, of course, there's the infamous glide section. Once again, a piece of wall that you don't even know that I didn't even think was breakable. That I finally was just charging one day, and I was like, oh my, wait, hold up, this is breakable? So I started exploring. And eventually, I was like, oh my god, wait a minute, can I go from here to that one island? So I did what I did, I charge jumped, I glided, and it was just, it was beautiful. I was like, oh my god, this is an amazing distance. I finally reached the 75 gems that were on that ledge with the orb, and I was like, yes! 100% completion! Now, if you're wondering if I suffered some orb distress in Winter Tundra with the one orb on the top of the waterfall, no, because my friend Austin, who I initially borrowed the game from, this is when I didn't rent it from the video store, he showed me that himself. So, yeah, I didn't suffer. Hooray. Not really much that I did suffer when it came down to the Winter Tundra levels, because pretty much I knew what I needed to do in terms of gems, and getting the orbs were relative. They weren't easy, but they weren't hard either. The balance was right on that. I would think. The boss fights were fun too, fighting off Crush, fighting off Gulp, and then perfecting Ripto without the Super Flame power-up. That was I challenged myself to do that, to perfect him without using the Super Flame power-up. Holy shit, that is an endurance match right there, because you have to go through 3 forms. And what's worse is that... Oh, no, you're not dimming on me, you damn computer display. Oh, the challenge there is the fact that... if he so much as charges up his wand attack to fire some kind of fire blast at you, you might... sometimes you could charge into him, and he'll go, no! But other times, I tried charging into him, and he wouldn't budge, so he'd complete the animation, I'd get my ass singed, and there went my skill point. Yeah, in Spyro 2 they added skill points, and that was a whole other story of trying to figure out all the skill points in the game. Some of them were pretty easy, some of them were cryptic as hell. And they didn't even tell you what levels even had skill points until you actually discovered them. That was a problem. Spyro 3 would later rectify this by, I want to say after you beat the game, beat the sorceress the first time, you get a little log for your skill points. It's either that or you have to discover 8 on your own. That's my guess. But still on the subject of Spyro 2, then we came down to where you had to... Because I beat Ripto, I was so happy, I was ready to go on to Dragon Shores and whatnot, and then the gatekeeper's like, hey there, Spyro, thanks for coming, but you need more shit. Get back out there. And I was like, what? And then I saw that I needed 8,000 gems and 55 orbs, and I am like, that's a collectathon game for you. But my god, like, you finally get to earn your vacation just for them to say, nope, we can't open up just yet, you need more shit in Avalar. Even though the world has no connection to Avalar at all. At least in terms of story plot. So back out I went, getting 15 more orbs, collecting my 8,000 treasure. Because back then I was a kid. Like nowadays it's nothing. But I eventually did it. I got to go inside Dragon Shores. I got to do the whole Dunkaroo thing. The roller coaster challenge can be a bit strenuous because let's face it, that challenge is pretty freaking hard. What else was there? The shooting gallery was good too. And then of course we had the Tunnel of Love, which we all wanted. We all wanted Alora to be next to Spyro, especially when we saw the epilogue pictures. But alas, we couldn't get them. Thankfully, I got the next best thing. I had 2 fawns flanking me. The fawns from Fractured Hills, they were flanking me. I was like, uh-oh, Spyro's becoming a pimp. And what's even worse is that Spyro is purple. The color associated with that profession. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't ruin anyone's childhood by saying that. Oh, sometimes you'd even get the damn snow leopard. So that was pretty cool. But then eventually you got all 10 tokens, you get a movie theater to see all of the movies, all the cutscenes from the game. And that was pretty cool. And especially you got to see how Hunter just sat on money bags to get you back all your money that you spent on him. That fat piece of... But then I had the challenge laid down where you had to 100% the game in order to open up that door for the infinite Super Flame power-up, which at that point I didn't care anymore because once I got it I was like, okay, we're done. But it was because of that Super Flame power-up I got to do more skill points, like perfecting some bosses and stuff. Like I did it before, the first time I got the perfect against Ripto, I did the perfect with the Super Flame because it's so much easier because all you have to do is from the moment the battle starts, just spam the circle button over and over and over again until the final phase where you actually have to start flying around. At that point, it gets a lot easier to get that skill point. Okay, let's leave Spyro 2 territory and go into Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon, which was a game I played before I got to fully beat Ripto's Rage. And I want to go on record and say Ripto's Rage is my favorite of the original PS1 trilogy because the pacing is right. The game is notoriously shorter than the other 2 games because you have the gem radar, and it all comes down to a skill cap. Can you beat the challenges in a fast amount of time? If so, good. 100%ing this game will be no problem. As of Spyro 3, Year of the Dragon, though, And once again, I was introduced to this game on a demo disc. This one, I want to say, was winter of 2000. And this demo disc came with the likes of Crash Bash, 102 Dalmatians Puppies to the Rescue, which I did a Let's Play on. Go check that out. Shameless plug. And, obviously, Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon. There was also more sports titles that, once again, I didn't give a damn about. Oh, and there was also Army Men Air Attack 2, which I heard that soundtrack to the game is pretty copyrighted from what I heard. But that's another game that I feel like I want to do a Let's Play on. I can add that to my bucket list. Anyways, Spyro 3 Year of the Dragon. The game opens up and it's really cool and whatnot. I specifically wanted to punch that rabbit lady for giving me so much trouble and just scoffing at me, and like she's putting me down at every waking moment. And I love how Spyro is just so sarcastic and everything. Like, he gets up on his hind legs and like, ooh, look, Hunter, it's the scary sorceress. And he's like in a little prayer kind of symbol before he comes back down on there. And Spyro tortures her ass, and that's it. At least the first time you see her. Second time, the ship starts sailing with Hunter and Bianca sort of getting together because Hunter saves Bianca from the terrible giant-ass rabbit that she made. But I want to say that the villain of Spyro 3 is easily the most vile of the three. Because we look at the villains of the past. We had Nasty Nork. What was his motivation for turning everybody into crystals? Because someone called him no threats. And he is simple, he is no threat, and besides, he is ugly. And the straw that broke the camel's back was that someone called him ugly. Nobody calls me ugly and gets away with it. Game time! Thankfully, Spyro avoided it because the game manual states that he was too small to be hit by the ray. You don't wonder how that happens. In Spyro 2, you have Ripto, who he comes off as sinister, but I feel like he has a lot more of a comical side to him. Especially when it comes down to the fourth game that came out on the technically the fifth, as compared to the TV tropes page I have thrown up here for the list. But that's a game that I won't mention until a little later. But then you have the sorceress. Her motivation is simply this. She exists in the Forgotten Worlds. She stole all 150 of the dragon eggs, and for what purpose? You don't know what she did it for until you have to fight the Scorch boss. And yes, there's a boss named Scorch. Funnily enough, in Spyro 2, there was a level named Scorch. Connection? No, none whatsoever. Anyways, though, you finally figure out the sorceress's plan when you get to the end of World 3, the Evening Lake, and it is the most vile thing ever. The only reason that she wanted the dragon eggs was so that she could collect the baby dragon's wings. Because she needs them for a spell so that she can live forever, or have eternal life, be granted immortality, whatever you want to call it. But then I started thinking, like, as I'm older and more mature now, that kind of plan is really genocidal. Genocidal, omnicidal, homicidal, I don't know what to call it, but essentially you have a woman here that in order to get what she wants, she is going to slaughter 150 defenseless babies for their body parts. For magic. I want to let that sink in for a moment. That is evil. That is evil. And Bianca is literally, I've had enough of this, I'm going to the hero side after she figures it out, because she wanted to take care of the dragons and whatnot. The sorceress wouldn't give two shits. And what's even worse is she says it, I don't have to kill them. It just stops them from wriggling around so much. Meaning she was if she wasn't going to kill them, she was going to rip the wings off of the babies, and she would love to hear them cry and scream in pain and agony until they eventually die out of possible blood loss. Yeah, I just went there and made it dark. That's how you overanalyze the plot of a video game, guys. So after traversing 4 worlds, you finally get to lay the smackdown on this, along with against the sorceress and her monster hordes called the Rhinox. And what's even better is you get help, because this is a game where you get to control multiple characters. You get obviously Spyro because it's on the damn title, but the box shows you 4 more characters and another 5th one that you'll discover yourself if you explore around enough. There's Sheila the Kangaroo, who is essentially just she's agile but not fast. She has a powerful kick that can break most things that Spyro usually couldn't break by himself with a charge. And then she has these weird jump mechanics. She has a simple double jump, but then she has one where you jump, you land, and then immediately hit the X button on landing to jump again much higher. So it's kind of like a super jump, I guess. And she's easily the most simple of them. In a later level for a side quest, you get to play her in a 2D style platforming challenge, which is kind of cool. Makes me wonder if they were trying to rip off Mario or something. I don't know. Anyways, there's her. There is Sergeant Bird, who is my second favorite of these 4 because of his power of flight. He's a penguin. He apparently has a thing for hummingbirds because all the hummingbirds you meet are female for whatever reason. And he has frickin' rocket launchers on his shoulders. Either DB as in boy or DV as in Veronica. DBX9 rocket launchers, state of the art. Have you any idea how much I wish I had those as a kid? Just imagine if those were like real army, like real military weapons grade right there. That's like having 2 bazookas strapped onto your frickin' back. That would be awesome. Then you have Bentley the Yeti, who is the worst character of them all to play as. Not because he's bad, but it's his mechanics are bad. He has an easily gimped jump. He's strong, yes. He can break everything. Everything. With just a swing of his club. And then for his other attack, which isn't really an attack, it's just he twirls his club around in a way that we wish we could twirl our weapons around, and all that happens is he deflects stuff, and that's not as useful as you would think as it comes across to be, because you only get to use that deflection shit twice in the entire game. Afterwards, you never use it again. Use it in 2 separate level areas, and you never use it again. Though I will say this, one redeeming factor of playing as him in Frozen Altars, you do get to play a minigame with him, which is a boxing minigame. It literally comes across as Final Fight or Punch Out. It's pretty cool. I like it. And then you can take another character. You can take another controller after you finish that. When you go back to Frozen Altars, you can pick up a second controller and control the other Yeti. It's pretty cool. What's even better is how Bartholomew berates you because all that this is over is a stupid ball. And he berates you when you lose to him. Like, so hard. And if you decide to leave early, he is like, But my ball! Like that. It's like, okay, this character I don't like all that much anymore. Even though, but I will say this, at the very least, in the Bentley levels, you can use your club to pound on him. And it works. It just works. But the last character that you play as that isn't Sparks, because you get to play as him in a top-down shooter thing, which he controls okay. I like his levels. I just wish that the charge function was better, because you can charge enemies, as shown in the tutorial, but no enemy you encounter in the game can be defeated with Sparks' charge attack. That's the problem. Made worse by the fact that the enemies that you can charge, in order to get the keys away from them, you can simply use your fireball attack, and it'll blow them away from the key, and the thief will try and rush towards the key. Simple as that. Let me see here. Oh, and lastly is Agent 9, who is a hilarious XP of, like, all your standard secret agent guys that are too gun happy. This is a trigger happy monkey that is shoot first, ask questions never. I like to think that if the future was now, Agent 9 would later become Jinx from the League of Legends. And it works, because he has... You are not dimming on me again, you damn computer. It would come across as just... He comes across as you shoot everything up, and it's great. Shoot everything, he gets a decent level. He even gets a Doom-style level minigame, or I have thought more of like the James Bond for FPSs, but that is easily the best side quest in the game right there. The fact that you get to play a Doom/FPS clone right there, without much to think about. He even gets an on-rails shooter, which is nice. So you beat the Sorceress, and you have to find your secret level. You literally have to find your secret level, and it's cool that it's there, but oh man, the work you have to put in, because there's a combination of Spyro 2, where you have to do challenges to get your dragon eggs, which are your MacGuffins for the game in addition to gems. There's no kind of third option like talismans and other dragon eggs like in the first game and whatnot. But you've also got bits and pieces of the second game's orb collecting and the first game's dragon finding, because there are dragon eggs just in out-of-the-way locations that you have to discover. And some of them were pain in the ass, but I'm not going to go over the ones that gave me the trouble here, because there's too many to list. Way too many to list. But yeah, that was the PS... Oh, and the bonus level is basically a gem collectathon of 3 different minigames. 2 minigames, and a Super Flight, Super Flame power-up combination. And then you go toe-to-toe with the Sorceress in a UFO shooting match. And then you win. Yay! And get your decent ending. You earned your happy ending there. There you go. That was Spyro 3. And I loved it. I loved this entire trilogy from the bottom of my heart. I own all 3 games. I definitely want to Let's Play them in the future. And whatnot. Now for other games of the series that I am inclined to talk about because I've played them. Season of Ice I never played, so nothing there. Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. Do I have to talk about this game? Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about it. So, Enter the Dragonfly is bittersweet to me because it's more of the same Spyro that you love. There's just a lot wrong with it. First and foremost is the Dragon Rune mechanic. Bianca shows up at the beginning of the game, gives you a Dragon Rune so that you can use the completely useless outside of plot power Bubble Breath. And then what happens is she just disappears from the game entirely. I don't even think she comes back in the epilogue credits to like celebrate with you. I think she's just gone from the game at that point, and it's really, really sad. The Dragon Runes in themselves, though, are terrible because it's not the powers that are bad, it's getting the damn things. You have to find 3 Dragon Runes in 3 different levels. In the Dragonfly Dojo, you have to find the Electric Breath Rune. The game makes no indication that you have to find these... The game literally has no indication of where or how you're supposed to find these things. There's not even so much as a radar. You are completely alone here, and... I found the electric one by accident, just stumbling across it. Then came the next Dragon Rune that I managed to find, which was the Ice Breath in Cloud 9. I also did Luau Island, and I'll get back to Luau Island in just a moment. Thankfully Cloud 9's was right in front of you at the start of the level. As it said, we're sorry for making this cryptic and shit. Here, have a free one on us. And the Ice Breath is necessary for some stuff later down in the game anyways. The one that gave me the biggest trouble, and the reason I hated the Dragon Rune mechanic so much, was Spyro's new power, the Wing Shield, which you had to unlock by finding a Dragon Rune. The rune was in Luau Island. I played through all of Luau Island and never picked it up. I didn't see it. So... imagine me wondering where the hell the Wing Shield power-up is, and I'm now going through levels that require the Wing Shield in order to successfully 100% them. I was pissed. I was pissed. And it took me a long ass time, but then I just said, you know what, I'm gonna do like a ground search from beginning to end to see if I can find that rune. And when I finally found the rune on Luau Island for the wing shield, I was like, you were here all along? Ah, da, 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 ah! Just that much. That much. That much hatred. Oh my god. But I eventually slogged through the rest of the game with its long loading times, poor frame rate at some places, and overall terrible structuring of the one hub world with 9 levels as opposed to what we were supposed to get, 3 hub worlds with 24 or so levels, and instead of 120 dragonflies, it's 90. After you get about 50% of the game done, you fight Ripto your first time. After you collect all the gems or all the dragonflies, whichever comes first, you can fight Ripto again. And then once you finish off the one that you've missed, you fight Ripto one last time. And then the game ends. And again, I don't like the fact I have to hate Spyro Enter the Dragonfly. Because it's much of the same Spyro stuff that we love, it's just poorly executed. That's all there is to it. When I say poorly executed, I'm talking about how the game holds up in its structure and whatnot. Because other than that, it is Spyro as you know him and love him. Just imagine if that game was not rushed. How much better it probably would have been. Just imagine. What the hell is that chord there? So let's go down the list and see what else I've hit. Season of Flame, never played. Attack of the Rhinox, never played. The crossover games Spyro Orange and Crash Purple. Cortex Conspiracy and Ripto's Rampage, never played, heard horror stories about them. A Hero's Tale, a game that I haven't played, but I've definitely heard a lot about. I heard that it was a good return to roots, aside from the fact that the game was too easy in a lot of places. And it was really dumbed down to being a lot more simpler. And it's also where the spawn of love interest Ember showed up, and the start of most ships. Does Spyro belong with Ember, or does he belong with Cinder, a character that appears later? I really don't know. I really don't know. Though I do like how Spyro gets flustered when Ember says that the dark gem would make an amazing engagement ring or a wedding ring or something. Don't you think, Spyro? And he looks at us. He looks at the TV, and if it was me, I'd be like, "You're on your own, pal." It's so great. It's so great. But I kind of wish I played A Hero's Tale. Maybe someday I will find what copy of the game I should pick up, PS2, GameCube, or Xbox, and I'll give it a whirl. But until then, it'll just remain untouched as one of those games. Shadow Legacy, I've touched upon. I played around an hour of it and lost interest. Not because it's Spyro, so I liked it, but at the same time, it's like, it was a little too hard for me to grasp. That's all. And then we have, if I may scroll down here, the Legend of Spyro series. I've played all 3 in the series. I've played the first one on Nintendo DS and Nintendo GameCube. It came out for the Xbox as well, which TV Tropes hasn't listed here, but it came out for the Xbox, for the original Xbox, and I have it on my 360 as part of the retro games collections the retro games they had on there at the time. San Andreas, I also meant, on going off topic, I also got San Andreas, the Xbox version, on there before they pulled it and replaced it with the HD remaster, which I heard is just full of bugs and stuff. So I'm glad I got the original. Anyways, back to Spyro. And the Legend of Spyro series as a whole, I can say this: the first 2 games are good. Third one is good. They were losing some steam, I could tell. But as a whole, it is a hell of a story. I didn't play it for the gameplay. The gameplay was, it turned it from platformer to an kind of like an on-rails beat-em-up of sorts, with varying movesets between the games. Game number 2 added a time mechanic, which I just thought was a more half-assed version of Chaos Control, only for dragons. And then Dawn of the Dragon came along and introduced a limited flight option, which was cool, and the power to, I'm trying to think of how to word it here. You get to play a Cinder. And it was great. The DS version of A New Beginning, since I can talk about it just briefly, it also had light puzzles to complete, and these light puzzles were ranged from really cool and innovative and easy to pain in the ass Morning's End Part 2 levels of, oh my god, why the hell am I even playing this? I want to get on with my life. And for those of you that don't know what Morning's End Part 2 is, be thankful and don't look it up. Unless you play RuneScape, in which case, have fun, is all I can say. Have fun with that quest. And the quests leading up to and after it. Though in the end, it's a really good reward on the RS3 servers. Back to Spyro. Again, as a whole, the games are really cool from a huge-ass storytelling perspective, because this is the reason that I played this game is the series of The Legend of Spyro is I wanted to see the story from beginning to end. And eventually, I am going to sit my ass down, turn on my Xbox, and then my PS2, because I have Eternal Night and Dawn of the Dragon for that. I'm going to sit my ass down, and I'm going to play through all of these games from start to finish, marathoning the entire game, like the entire series, and I'm going to have fun with it. It's going to take me a while, but I'll have fun with it. Because the story in itself is just really cool. And some of the music's really good, too. I want to go on record and say that Cinder's Lair from A New Beginning, my all-time favorite villain fortress to traverse. I could gush about that place for hours, but I am going to save you the trouble and just say that it is just my all-time favorite, and it's awesome. Especially for the structure. Helps that the first game's villain is a woman. But, yeah. Yeah, for whatever reason, when I play video games, if there's a male antagonist, primary male antagonist, I don't care too much, but at the same time, I'm ready to kick their ass and save the world. But if there's a female antagonist, I revel at the fact that it's rare, is what it is. It's like, because come on, let's think about it. You tell me how many evil women you have known about in video games. Not back in the NES days, but okay, even back in the NES days. I know that the Battletoads Dark Queen was one guy. One villain or whatnot, but yeah, you tell me through all the video games you've played, how many female antagonists were there? God, I'll wait. But not really. But yeah, it was a really good build. It was a really good story from start to finish, and it felt like an entire book could have been written on that alone. If somebody made a book of just the entire 3 games crammed into one book, not leaving out a detail, I would buy that book and read it, because it's great. But there's one more game series that I must unfortunately go over, and that is the Skylanders. Dun dun dun! No, not the Skylanders! I have to talk about Skylanders, but you can't talk about Skylanders! I have to talk about Skylanders. But why? Because the very first game was marketed to us as Spyro's Adventure. He got top billing. And hell, the cutscenes and the stories and whatnot were specifically tailored around him, so I have to talk about it. Especially because I've played and beaten the first Skylanders, thanks to my friend Eddie. Oh, boy. My good old friend Eddie Carnicelli. If you're watching this, Eddie, hope you're doing well, man. But basically, and when we played through Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, I took over as both regular Spyro, because he had multiple figures, but I took over regular Spyro and legendary Spyro. So yeah. And I built them differently too. I built legendary Spyro to be a flame spammer, and regular Spyro to be the horn spammer. And it's a harmless series in itself, and whatnot, but I feel like they wanted to stick Spyro into the Skylanders area to sort of keep him on the back burner, so to speak. To make matters worse, Cinder showed up later and even got top billing in the second game. I want to say it's Skylanders Giants. It's either Skylanders Giants or Skylanders Trap Team, one of those two, that she got top billing in. It was the second game of the series, of the Skylanders series. But as the games go on, Spyro just gets phased out more and more and more, and now he's not even being sold with the packaging anymore when it comes to like the standard starter stuff. So it's kind of like Spyro has now just been lost in the wonderful world that has been Skylanders. I will say this, though, to give credit where credit is due. I kind of think it works for him. I mean, it's not like the Spyro we all know and love anymore, but at the very least, he's found a home with the medias, with a medium of sorts. So it's kind of like, even if they don't show him anymore and whatnot, if you were around when Skylanders started, and you know about Skylanders, then you'll know that Spyro was around, and he still is, because he's billed as the leader of Skylanders. And actually, now that I have your attention on that, I actually found out that there was a comic book series with Malefor, the villain of the Legend of Spyro series, coming back and stating that he fought Spyro and Cinder before, and Spyro had no memory of it. So what I want to know is this trying to tell us that the Skylanders universe and the Legend of Spyro universes were one and the same all this time? Or is it just simply Malfour came from a different time period and is just trying to exact revenge on Spyro for what he did in the same time period? Because Spyro has amnesia of those events. He does not remember it at all. Plus, he doesn't even think he was there. And in the comic itself, it states that Cinder was bred to be his loyal servant, as Cinder's element in the Skylanders series is undead. And in the first game, she is gruesome. She is like legit feral. She is like a monster that is just foaming at the mouth, ready to go. Thankfully, the game, once she had top billing in the second game, she got a lot more sentient and a lot more intelligent, a lot faster. So there's that. Yep. Well, I think that about covers every one of my Spyro adventures that I played. Or rather, all the Spyro games that I have played up to that point. Also, of a small passing note, in the GBA version of Crash Nitro Kart, Spyro was a guest character. A guest racer, you could say. So yeah, Spyro has had some media that he's been featured in that has not been just his own video games and whatnot. So there you go. God, my nose is itchy from talking this long. How long have I been talking for? Damn, I've been talking for a long time. See what I mean by I don't know when to shut the hell up? Guess my friends were right. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed listening here. This is somewhat of like this is like an experimental podcast thing. Just to get me all talked out and stuff. And do I feel talked out already? Alright, so this is Ragnamune signing off. You guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me rambling on about video games and whatnot. And maybe I'll do more of these. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I will see you guys later. Take it easy.